Yeah. Make sure you take a shower at 6 o'clock. All right, young scholars. So I was not aware that I was teaching this class this semester until I logged into Web Campus on Thursday and noticed that the course was listed for me. I live 2 hours away from campus. In the past, Dr. Mondell has allowed me to teach courses in a hybrid mode where we've met some classes on campus and some classes online. In the past 2 years doing that, nobody ever comes to class when it's face to face. And nobody ever comes to class when it's on Zoom. So what I decided to do this semester, especially with the last minute notice, was have it where tonight we meet on Zoom for the first class meeting where I basically explain to you what's going to happen. Then all subsequent meetings, there will be a recording with all the course information that you need to understand for that week posted up onto Web Campus here. And then a Zoom meeting at 6 p.m. the night of that class in case you have any questions. So say you look through the HTML video for next Tuesday, there's something you want to ask me a question about, you don't understand an assignment, you pop in to that 6 o'clock meeting. And then the last meeting on 12/3, which will be team presentations, everybody will show up again. It'll be just like tonight, where everybody will be expected to be there. And you'll start at 5:30 and might go the entire evening. So I'm going to touch on how this course is going to run, some introductory information tonight, walk through Web Campus, walk through the syllabus, etc. for all. So the course is going to focus on the basics of website design and development. We're going to also add in basic coding, such as HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So tonight it'll just be basic information about internet and web applications. Going forward, as you'll see on the syllabus, will be topics such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript, building forms using PHP, which will actually involve some coding. So again, as I mentioned, even though the course is listed as face-to-face, online, it's going to be run through Zoom primarily. So like I said, the meetings tonight and the last class on 12/3 will be scheduled 5:30 to 9. More than likely, will end earlier than that, and will be on Zoom. All other meetings after that, 9:3, 9:10, etc. You could just pop in a Zoom at 6 o'clock if you have any questions. There'll be recordings posted onto webcams. Okay, Brian, you have a question?
For this course, do we have to buy anything for
No,
this course?
no. Everything I will provide you. So
Okay, thank you.
no textbook. Everything will just be posted up onto webcams.
Okay, thank you.
So there's no textbook, nothing to buy. Everything's freeware. Which I'll show you momentarily. But again, so all of these other meetings will just be pop in if you have a question, you don't understand the lecture material, you don't understand the assignments. Now, since this weekend is the holiday weekend, I might not be able to post the recording until next Tuesday afternoonish. But all of the other ones I should have up by the Sunday night before. So you should be able to look at them, watch them. Each week, there's probably going to be a little exercise. I give you the code, you pop it into what's called a WYSIWYG, and you click the run button, and you'll see how it loads. So the only time you guys have to pop into the Zoom meeting would be tonight and on 12/3 to do your team presentation. If you don't have any questions, you don't need to come in on those evenings. All right, so here is how the course assignments and the percentage of the grade is going to break down. So in the past, when I've taught this class, there's been maybe 7 or 8 students. And like I said earlier, they hardly would ever show up. So I might have 2 students show up. Whereas with the 20 students, I figured we make this more team-oriented course. So you're going to have 5 team assignments, each worth 10%. So 5 total gives you the 50% total. The last assignment will be a team peer assessment, where basically you're going to review how each members of your team did. And I will combine every team member's assessment to give you your score for that 100 points, which would be worth 5%. You're going to build a website in your team together, and you're going to create a rough draft proposal worth 5%. Then I give you feedback, and you'll create a final draft from that, which will also be 5%. However, and I'll show you this momentarily, the rough draft will be worth 50 points, and the final draft will be worth 150 points. So with the rough draft, everything will be worth 10 points. And in the final draft, everything except the introduction will be worth 35. So on the syllabus sheet here, you see that in the 10-1 folder for homework, you'll have that rough draft proposal to do. So if you go on Web Campus and open up the 10-1 folder, you'll see here that in essence, you're going to create a proposal to somebody you're doing the website for with your team. So in your introduction, you're going to describe who the group members are. Basically, why are you qualified to be doing this website? You're going to have a problem section where you basically tell us what the problem is. Why did they need the website? What's the purpose of it? And the solution is how you're going to address that. Is it going to be an e-commerce website to sell them shoes? Is it going to be a personal website to help them get a job? Then deliverables. What is going to be on the website? Are you going to have images, pictures, videos, etc.? And then process and cost. How long is it going to take you to do everything for the website is your process. And your cost is what is the cost going to be? Most people in the past have used Wix because it's free to create their website. But you might say, oh, we're going to charge them $25 an hour to do the website for them. We're going to have a $10 a month security cost. We're going to have $50 a month for maintenance. And if you click on this link here, proposal examples, it'll go to examples of how these look. They'll be anywhere between 3 to 4 pages. Hopefully this loads. There we go. And you'll see examples of how these look. So introduction, just a short paragraph about what you're doing. Problem, what is the issue? How the solution is how you're fixing that. Deliverables, what's going to be on the website? The pages, images, files, etc. The process. What is your process? When is going to be done? Since in the past, everybody did these individually, and now this time you're going to be in teams that have people working together. And the cost, what is each part going to cost? So 100 hours.
But did she even say anything? That's weird. Yes, I looked at her. What the fuck?
And then you might also include a sketch of what your proposal might, or your website might look like. So you'll notice within that rubric, for the rough draft, each part is 10 points. I then give you feedback and you update for the final draft, which will be due after class on 11/19. You'll see their team website final draft proposal. And in that instance, the problem, solution, deliverables, process, and cost section will all become 35 points, whereas the introduction will remain at 10 points. So that is in the 11/19 folder. And you'll see here basically the same description as provided with the rough draft, except those 4 sections are now 35 points instead of 10 points. So all assignments will be due the Monday night after they're assigned at 11:59 p.m. So if it's assigned, let's say the website rough draft proposal is assigned 10/1, it'll be due at 10/7 at 11:59 p.m. So each of your team members should all be working together to work on. So you're going to use that proposal to build your website. And team website is in the 1126 folder. And that also has its similar rubric. You'll be graded on appearance, deliverables, processing costs, and course info. Appearance, does the website look good? Deliverables and processing cost basically is from your proposal. Did you, for the most part, follow what you said you were going to do? And then course info, did you use the materials from class that we talked about? HTML, CSS, forms, JavaScript, etc. If you use the free version of Wix, like they've done in the past, you'll pretty much hit on all of these. Pranav, you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Are we allowed to choose our groups?
yes. So once I go through the whole spiel tonight, I'm gonna give you time, guys, time to set up your groups. It's gonna be the same people throughout the semester. So if you notice somebody you know here on the course roster here, I would suggest working with them. It's probably gonna help you out with that.
That's fine.
So, one thing, since it does list a classroom for us, you're more than welcome to go in that classroom, meet up with your teams, during the scheduled class time, work on these projects together, these assignments. That's completely fine with me. I'm sure nobody else will mind. It's probably in your best interest to consider doing that. Especially since we have that room from 5:30 to 9. You may pop in there at like 6 o'clock and meet with your team and say, oh, did you do this part for the homework? Did you do that part for the rough draft, et cetera, et cetera. And then that last class meeting on the December 3rd, you're going to do a presentation. So that is in the 12.3 folder. And the presentation is going to be half based on your PowerPoint or Google Slides, whatever you decide to do. And then half based on the time. You should be about 10 minutes. It's fine if you go a little over, but don't go too much over. And then the presentation itself. Since you're going to be doing these on Zoom, it's obviously going to be a little easier to do them in a professional way, because you're just going to have your face in the box pretty much and your slides visible to us. Pranav, another question?
Yeah, so how much members should be in our group?
I'm pretty sure that's on one slide here. I'll get to that, but ideally, since there's 20 students, no more than 5 in a team.
Just making sure.
Okay. It's on a slide somewhere, so I'll touch on that. Certain suggestions, like Brian, question?
Yeah, what happens if we don't have anybody to pair up with? You just put us in random groups then?
So like I said, since we'll have time after I go through all these slides, you guys will have more than enough time to talk to each other, even if it's on Zoom here, whatever you want to do. It looks like only 3 or 4 people aren't here right now, so like I said, that last slide, slide 36. Once we get there, we'll kind of talk more about the teams, and if there's a group that's already set up, we'll kind of go from there. And then the last assignment that you guys are going to have to do is this team peer assignment. Like I said, it's going to be basically, you say you're in a group of 5, you assess the other 4 team members, and each of you assess the team members, and then the 100 points will be totaled up based on the scores your teammates gave you. So let's say one teammate says you did great, the other three said you didn't do so great. It'll all be averaged out for that team peer assessment assignment. And then these 5 team assignments, you're going to work together all with your teammates. The first one will be on HTML, the second one on CSS, the third one on JavaScript, the fourth one will be creating a PHP form. The last one will be an SEO proposal. So you're basically, for the team assignment in HTML, going to combine the concepts you learned in the 3 weeks associated with HTML, same with CSS, same with JavaScript. The form, you'll just pick one of the options I give you on how to make a form. And the SEO proposal will just be basically maybe 2 or 3 pages explaining how you would promote your website using SEO and PPC. And then here on slide 4 is basically an explanation of what I just covered. All the instructions are posted on Web Campus. So the team assignments, those 5 I just referenced, they're going to be graded based on completion and correctness. So you do it, that's kind of half of the points. You do it correctly, that's the other half of the points. Whereas all of the other assignments will have a rubric, and you'll be graded each of those rubric sections. So is there any questions associated with that so far? Okay, good. So everything is going to be up here on Web Campus. You just click course information, and there'll all be folders for each class. And once you click in them, there'll be a Zoom meeting link. Like I said, for every class after tonight through that last class meeting, it'll just be scheduled for 6 to say 6:30 to pop in for questions. In the future, every one of these will be at the top up here where the course syllabus is. Since it's the first meeting with all the info in here, I had to get course syllabus, grade breakdown, etc. information in here. Yes. Pranav, another question?
Yeah, so I see on Blackboard that HTML, we can work on it on the 3rd, 10th, on the 3rd and the 10th, but is it due on the 17th? I'm just trying to make sure.
Excuse me. So the quote unquote lectures on the 3rd, 10th, and 17th will be on HTML. So
So,
after
like-
the 17th class, the team assignment HTML assignment will be assigned, and it'll be due the Monday before. So the CSS starts on 9/24. So HTML will be due on 9/23 at 11:59 p.m. So as of this second, I don't have the instructions up there. I'll probably have them up by Thursday in the evening at some point. So if you want to start on it now, that's entirely up to you. But I might wait until I get some of the info into these folders. So if you were to click 9.3 right now, you see nothing's in there. So I might wait until like next Wednesday, Thursday-ish before you start, because you'll notice that basically nothing's in these folders just yet.
So like, will you be like giving us a lecture on like some PowerPoints?
So what I'll do is, and like I said, because I might have company due to the holiday weekend, this first one probably won't be posted till that day. So it'll probably be a lecture of information. Like, what is HTML? You know, what is it used for? And then within all of these slides will also be code on how to use these and what it does. So for example, I think I have an example somewhere of creating a grid with fantasy football players in it. And I'll show you guys that example in the presentation. So it'll be a little bit of slides, a little bit of here's code and this is what it does. And I'll add that also into the folder so you guys can copy it and use that as well, which is why I give you this WYSIWYG link. WYSIWYG stands for what you see is what you get. And it's going to open this tab here called W3 Schools Try It Editor, where you'll put your code in here, click run, and it'll show you what the code does. But we'll get into that starting next week. So it'll be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, where it's going to be a little bit of like lecture slides like this with info on it, and a little bit of using the code. So what are different ways we can use media to influence or add to websites? Well, they're enhanced using images, color schemes, different themes, links and videos. These days, it's rather odd for audio to be included. It's unlikely, but back in the day, say 15 years ago, a lot of times you would be able to go to a website and hear audio. For example, years ago, if you've ever seen the movie Goodfellas, the character who played Billy Batts, named Frank Vincent, I did his website probably 21, 22 years ago. And before he passed away, if you went to his website, it would say, hey, you found me. Now all you got to do is click. In his, it was him recording saying that. What's the most common way you might see video embedded into a website? You guys probably all see this. YouTube. Most of the time, you go to YouTube, you get the embed link, and you'll put it into your website. So as I mentioned, we're going to learn CSS, HTML, PHP, and JavaScript. That's because all of them together help us develop an effective website. They help us with the design, possibly networking, addressing certain protocols you may have. And in the case of PHP, it often helps us with security. Because if you go to a web page and you right click, you're able to select view page source, and it gives you the entire code for that page. But with a PHP page, instead of an HTML page, you can't. It'll only show you the HTML code for that website. So when it comes to website design, you're specifically the clients and the website is the server. You go on to your Google Chrome, your Safari, whatever you may be using, you type in that website, which is a request to the web server where it's stored on. Then the response would be, what would the response be?
The site showing up.
Yeah, that website loads. Now, what helps it load faster? Are you guys familiar with this? You probably eat a lot of them.
Cookies.
Cookies, yes. So if you go to a website, it stores cookies, which stores the information of your visits to that website. The more cookies stored about a certain website, the quicker it loads, assuming you're on high-speed internet, of course. So there are different types of servers that exist, such as web servers, application servers, database servers, mail servers, media servers, and authentication servers. So the web server, as we just showed, displays the content, the information, the website, whatever's on it, the embedded images, the embedded videos, etc. The application server allows for the completion of a task. Years ago, not used as much, you might have had a graphic user interface or a GUI on the website that would show up. I don't know if you guys are of that age still. About 5 or 6 years ago, there were some students that said there was a website called Cool Math Games that they would always go to. And all of the games would be stored on there. And they would also be application where you click something and then you could play a game right within a website. So the database server allows you for information. So say you had a website where you're storing passwords. Behind the scenes, you're able to retrieve all of that information in a database. So their name, password, etc., will be stored with you. Mail server, I'm sure you understand, transports emails or other messages, such as SMS, a text message, etc. Media servers, obviously, allow you the transportation of media. You could upload, download certain media from a web page as needed. And then lastly, authentication servers often serve as a security tool, encrypting files. So why might you want to create a website? There's many other reasons other than what I listed here. But a website, once you have it live on a server, can be accessed anywhere. Your friend down in Florida, let's say, can look at your website, even though you made it here in New Jersey. It can serve as a promotional tool for any product or service you may be promoting. It has the potential to generate money for you. It also has the potential to demonstrate your skills and abilities. Think of something like LinkedIn. Instead of listing all your skills, you could show, okay, I know how to create a website. Here's some examples of different websites I did. And it could help you establish a brand. You'll notice a lot of these TikTok famous people now have their own websites promoting all these different things they have, these relationships with other companies, etc. So it's important to understand internet protocols because if they're not set up properly or followed, you can't access your website. So the internet protocols also set your IP addresses, which are obviously responsible for allowing you to access the websites, the apps, etc., for what you want to use. So let's say you're on your phone and you're trying to go on, I know Snapchat is big with your generation. Let's say you're trying to go on Snapchat. If you're in an area where there's no wireless available for you, you're not going to be able to access it because there's no protocol or internet to access. So different information you could transport, we've already touched on. You go to a browser to get the client the info. You can email, you can upload files. So here's an example or an illustration of the two most commonly used internet protocols now, IPv4 and IPv6. Depending on what device you're using, a laptop, a tablet, may have different protocols set up on what the default usage is. But looking at these images of how these are set up, which internet protocol do you believe offers the better security?
The IPv6.
Yep. There's 8 16-bit components, meaning there's all different options. Whereas the 8-bit, there's much less. So you could have multiple different options with your IPv6 address. So it's harder for somebody to break into your IP or network if you have the IPv6 set up. So here are more examples of internet protocols: HTTP, SSH, FTP, POP, IMAP, SMTP are all related to sending and retrieving emails. So for example, I use Mozilla Fire or Thunderbird to retrieve emails instead of having multiple different accounts logging in on the web. All of them may have to be set up differently in order to retrieve or store your emails on both that original server, let's say the FDU email, as well as into that Mozilla Thunderbird account. So I have to determine, oh, is this a POP like Yahoo? Is it an IMAP like Google? And set those up specifically. So HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, is now a little out of date. It's now HTTPS. They basically want all websites to have the S on the end to show that it's secure. And you know they're secure if you see this little lock. Now, lastly, DNS, domain name server or system, relates to where your web page or website or domain is hosted on. And you could set up your domain name servers to point to the hosting company you have in order for your website to run live. So in this instance, ESPN.com is what's called a domain or top level domain. Sports.yahoo.com is what's called a subdomain. So you'll notice the difference. You'll have something dot and then the actual website itself. That is a subdomain. If you just have the website itself, that's a domain or a website. Then you also have URL, which is the entire length of the source. And I give you an example of the Yankee box score from the other day. A URL can also be referred to as a web page. And here I mention again how the HTTPS has basically replaced HTTP just because it's secure. Again, if it's actually following that HTTPS, it'll have the little lock there. If it's still following HTTP, it'll tell you that the website is not secure and ask you if you want to proceed. So FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. Years ago, it was used to upload files onto a website. You'd go and click a folder on your laptop, type FTTP / whatever your website name was into Windows Explorer, and you would upload your files into a folder as you needed to. Nowadays, most companies with hosting will just allow you to log in, click something that says File Manager, and upload all of your files wherever you need them to be. So here are some common errors you might have when you go to a website. So any code that starts with 200 have successful responses. You're not going to see them. You're just going to see the actual website or web page itself. The codes that start with 300 are redirections. Again, you're not going to see them. You're just going to see the result of what happened. The 400 codes are client errors, meaning something happened on your end. Your internet didn't work. Something happened. The 500 codes are usually server errors. Something on the other end happened. Their server may be down. They had no electrical access, something to that effect. So here's an example of a few response codes you might see. So as I mentioned, the 400 and 500 requests are the most common. Obviously, I'm sure you've seen the most common is the 404 not found error. That means that web page you're trying to visit, it's gone, it doesn't exist. So the 400 error is the most common error that'll be on your end, a bad request. You had some kind of issue with your internet, it didn't load, etc. The most common on the server side is 500, internal server error. They may have too many people visiting that website at that time, so it's not going to load for you. Once the site has less visitors, it'll calm down and you'll be able to access it. So why are web browsers important? Well, they help us interpret code differently. So Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Safari, etc., all have different ways they interpret your separate code. So years ago, when there was Internet Explorer, before Microsoft Edge replaced it, you would have to put in a separate JavaScript or CSS file into your website's folder just for Internet Explorer, because Internet Explorer would have completely different understanding of your code. So you'd have to put in an additional file to make Internet Explorer correctly understand. So the different browsers interpret what the code is and shows the end user. So it may be different based on your mobile device, your web browser, etc. It helps us with search engine. Can people find it? Certain web browsers, especially Google Chrome, when you type in the URL, if you've already visited before, it auto completes it. It adds the rest of it. Same thing with forms. Certain web browsers will store your previous information and allow you to simply click, oh, okay, I already have that info stored, auto-populated in the form. And the most common helpful thing of a website browser is the security. It's going to tell you, hey, you don't want to continue on this website. It's a phishing scam. It's not secure. Don't put a password in here. So web servers allow us to add all this information onto, but they're made up of what's called a stack, which always has an operating system, some kind of software that helps us use that web server, usually a behind the scenes database. You may use it, you may not use it, and a scripting language for our dynamic request. So it could be HTML, CSS, all these different items we'll talk about throughout the course of the semester. So the most common stack is called LAMP, which uses the Linux operating system, the Apache web server, which almost every web server is going to be run on, the Apache web server, the MySQL database, and the PHP scripting language. We might talk about MySQL later in the semester. We'll definitely talk about PHP. And the big thing with PHP, and you'll see this throughout the semester, PHP can only be used or work once it's loaded onto an Apache web server. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you could just open that code anywhere and it'll interpret what it's doing. Whereas PHP has to be live on a web server, up on a website somewhere for it to work correctly. So here's some more examples of potential ways that you could use these tools. So other operating systems, Windows, iOS, like I said, the most common probably 99% of the time, Apache is going to be your web server software. Other types of database softwares that might be used are Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server. Other scripting softwares might be ASP.NET or actually the Python programming language. So there are different types of websites: internet, intranet, and extranet. So internet you access anywhere, like the ESPN website. Intranet is kind of a private network where only those people on that network can use it. So for example, think of when you're on the FDU campus. Unless you have your login information, you can't use those campus computers. And then an extranet is where multiple people can use the same information together in order to collaborate. So the example I think of is like Google Docs. Multiple students can go in, multiple people at work can go in and modify a document based on what they need to do. So here are other examples, such as e-commerce websites where you're selling information online, or goods, services, and you use these quite often: learning management systems, such as we have here with Web Campus. Its sole purpose is to help make learning, not just online learning, better for the students using it. So here we have planning a website. So I show you guys this slide because this is in essence the goal of the proposal. Why are we making the website? What is it going to do? Who is it for? And how are we going to make it look so that it accomplished that? So we have our purpose, which is basically going to be your solution on the proposal. What does it do? And that's where you develop the problem beforehand. This is what our purpose has to address. The target audience, who's it going to be for? Are you creating a sports blog to provide information to fans of the 76ers, which was one example that has been done before? And how are you going to create it? What are you going to display? What information? The navigation, how it looks, is also important. You might want to use different colors, styles. You're going to want to make it look professional. So conformity is key. So for example, Web Campus, everybody's looks primarily the same with different options to click information on the side. It's not different for everybody. If all the different pages look different, it may be considered unprofessional. People may leave and not come back. Accessibility is a big thing with websites as well. You have to be aware of how different users will see your website. Somebody may be on their phone, it doesn't look good. Somebody looks at your web page on a laptop, and it looks fine. Somebody looks at it on an iPad, it's all right. You also might want to have certain tools running in the background. For example, you may want to have the option to choose different languages for people who use your website. But the most common thing is with respect to possible disabilities. So you may want to have the availability for your web page to be read off using, say, a screen reader for the deaf, etc. Or think of something like YouTube, where they have transcripts available. You go to a video and it has the availability for you to go ahead and read the transcript underneath. Those are different ways you may be able to address accessibility with your web page. May not always be necessary, but they should be things that you consider when you go ahead and make So this slide here, web authoring tools. So Notepad, you can edit your HTML code in, and this gives a little description of this. But like I said, for the purposes of this course, you're probably just going to click this WYSIWYG link here, open this, type your code in, paste your code in that I provide, click run. It'll show you what the result is here on the side, and I'll explain the code in all of the videos as well as to what's doing what. So you have a better idea of what you're going through. But if you so choose, there are other options available. Notepad, Atom, TextMate, all free software available to be downloaded online. You're more than welcome to use whatever one you want. The reason I give the WYSIWYG and recommend that is, especially in this instance, if you're working with 3 or 4 other people, it's probably easier for you to all look through that one specific thing. Whereas if 2 people are using Atom and 3 are using TextMate, it may show the comments or the code a little different. So unfortunately, there are also paid WYSIWYG editors, such as Adobe Dreamweaver, and previously Microsoft had something called Front Page. I believe they discontinued that about 20 years ago. The Adobe Dreamweaver requires a paid license. So if you go to a computer on campus, it probably has Adobe Dreamweaver on there. But let's say you're using your own personal laptop, you're not going to be able to access Adobe Dreamweaver unless they have some kind of program with FDU that you can log in and access it online. Otherwise, you'd have to purchase a license. So here's some more further considerations you need to give when you're creating a website. So in this example, it just gives you the Forward Fitness Club idea. So you see here again, we have the purpose. Who's the target audience for that fitness club? How are you going to do the display? Are you going to have a site map behind the scenes to show where each site is? What kind of graphics are you going to have on the site? In this example, photos of the facility, members and staff. Color, what's the color scheme going to do? In this example, they just want black and white. That's pretty boring. You might want to have a bunch of different colors. And again, that accessibility. Make sure that it's going to work on different devices. People are going to view it differently and have it look. So when it comes to file management, certain files are going to be stored in certain folders. So for example, you have like 100 images uploaded to your web server. You might have all of them stored into a folder called IMG or images, just to make sure that they're stored in one place. And when you embed them in your website, so let's say your website is ESPN.com. And you want to have an image of, let's say, Patrick Mahomes. You'd use the images folder after ESPN.com. And let's say the name of your image is pattymahomes.jpg. That's how you would set it up. You might also have all of your CSS code in one folder. So let's say you wanted to make that background for the Patty Mahomes image red and white. So then you do pattymahomes.css. We'll touch on CSS later in the semester. It stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Again, it's important to know where your files are stored when you're embedding or linking within the various pages. If you just have everything in the, what's called the root folder, it's a mess, especially if you have more than a couple files. You might have 100 images, 10 web pages, all in one root file or folder. It's not going to look good. So you need to organize it. Think of all your assignments for class. You might have on your laptop a folder for each of your classes. You don't just have everything in the documents folder, just a list scattered everywhere. So as you'll see when you use Wix, WordPress, or any other of the three options to create your team website for this course, you're going to have templates available for you to use. Most of the time they're free, some of them are paid. For this course, avoid the paid ones. Always go with the free ones. They're often geared toward only allowing you to create minor edits to them. Experts put up these templates, allow people to use them in order for you to best create a website to your liking. So for example, you find a template, you're probably only going to be able to edit the text and information associated with it. You may not be able to edit the color scheme. But why does that matter? Why does the layout matter? Well, as I mentioned before, the different web browsers are going to interpret the code differently. You want to create a layout that's accessible to not only your laptop, other computers, but your phones, iPads, mobile devices, especially since more and more people are visiting websites on their phones. Should be visible for anyone who visits the website. So like I said, you might want to have a translator, have the different languages possible, screen reader so that, say they have certain disabilities, it can be read the information off to them. And it has to be understood by anyone who attempts to visit your website or domain. So when you see these different templates you'll get, they're all going to be in random Latin words that nobody's used in 400 years. So you're going to have to go in and make sure that everything's fixed up. The most common thing that I see on these previous examples when individuals go and do their websites is, let's say the template has links to social media like Instagram, etc. They don't go in and fix them up and change them or get rid of them. So it just stays there. Like it'll go to the Instagram of WordPress or the Instagram of Wix, and that doesn't make your website look that great. So they need to be modified as well. So as I touched on, we're going to learn about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, forms. We'll learn a little bit about SEO. Like I said, I might throw in some database information toward the end of the class, but they all work together to help you build a strong website that people are going to want to visit and come back to. When it comes to your website, you're going to want to do what's called testing. The purpose of this is you don't want to launch a website that looks awful. You launch a website that looks awful, it turns people off. They go to it that one time, they never come back. So you want to test everything out. Is it nice looking to the user? When they use it, is it secure? What's the performance like? Does it load? Does it take forever to load? So you want to check and test all of these things before you officially load or get the website online. So you may have, send it to 8 friends. Hey, give me your feedback on this. And then modify as needed. Now in this course, your team is going to be testing. Oh, this text doesn't look good over here. Maybe we should put it over there as an example, which is related to functionality. How does the website look? Is it any good? Do we need to change it? So here's some examples of how you would test. There are other ways, but these are the most common and the easiest to do. So on a personal computer, and you'll see this more with next week's lecture recording, you would open an HTML file to visibly see how that web browser interprets it. On a web server, you may upload a file and see how it loads. Certain HTML files, you could just open them. There'll be no issue. But with PHP, like I said, they have to be live on a web server in order for them to work. You might check how the website looks on a mobile device. Are the pages visible? Did the layout change? If it did, is it still acceptable? And like I said, test with your target audience. You might send it to 8 friends, as I said, and gather their feedback. 5 might say, it stinks. Here's some reasons why. Whereas the other 3 like it. I might adjust based on what the 5 say. Go with the majority rule, as they say. All right. And lastly, like I said, with the teams, it's up to you the number of teams you might have, but don't make it more than 5. You're going to have the same team throughout the semester. So the team is going to work together on those 5 assignments. The rough draft proposal, you get the feedback from me, you fix it up for the final draft. Your team creates the website together. Your team does the presentation together. And then at the end of the semester, you do that team assessment. Okay, this is how, my teammates did. And that's why you'll see in the syllabus here, 12-3 is the last meeting. So like I said, all of these meetings in between, there's just going to be a recording. You pop into the Zoom at 6 o'clock if you have any questions. Whereas 12-3 will be like tonight. You all show up, your teams do the presentations, etc. You'll notice there's no meeting during the exam week because you're just going to be working on that peer assessment. So like I said, you're free to use the classroom. I think it's University Hall 28 it's set up as, in order to work together with your teammates. Ideally, I want to have you set up before the 9/17 class, because after that class, you're going to be working on the HTML team assignment. So since it's only 6:30 and we have plenty of time, is there anybody who knows who they want to work with? Like I said, you could have 4 teams of 5, 5 teams of 4. You could have 6 teams, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, and 4. It's entirely up to you. So, let's see. I'll just pick a random name here. Luke, do you have any idea who you might want to work with in the class?
To be honest, I actually don't know anyone in this class.
You don't know any.
Yeah.
Let's get the user list up here. So is there anyone in here that knows anybody else previous? Pranav, question?
I was gonna say I know some people in here.
Okay, who do you know?
Kevin,
Kevin Rodriguez?
yes.
Kevin, do you want to work with Pranav?
Yeah.
Okay. Who else did you know?
Thomas,
Thomas Lichtenstein?
yup.
Me?
Thomas,
Yeah.
do you want to work with him? I'm putting him on the spot. Thomas, do you want to work with Pranav?
Give me a minute so I can think about it.
Okay. Who else did you know, Pranav?
I'm clever.
Clever, did you want to work with Pranav? Is he here?
Yeah, sorry, what was that?
Would you like to work with Pranav?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Is that it, Pranav?
Yeah, I don't know anybody else.
We'll see.
Okay.
Can I join for Nev anyway?
Can you join? Okay,
I think I know one more.
okay, who else?
Michaela.
Michaela, are you here?
Can I join with Pranev's team?
Yeah, I'm here.
Michaela, do you want to join?
Can I join another team?
Okay. So this team we have right now is Kevin, Pranav, Clever, and Thomas.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Okay, does anybody else think they might have a team? Nobody? So Michaela, who did you think you wanted to work with?
Jason.
So Emmanuel, David, Sammy, Brian, Jaden. Are any of you here?
I am here. I don't really know anyone from the class, but I'm fine working with anyone if there's anyone else who is also in that same boat.
I'm here
Yeah, I'm
too.
here too.
Yep.
I'll work with you,
Same.
David.
I don't care who I work with either. Just put me in the group.
So who said they wanted to work with David?
Me, if, I don't know. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as David, so that's fine.
So there's David. I don't want to butcher that last name. Cause I'll probably say something like damn man.
Yeah, pretty close, Damon.
Damon, okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say damn man. And then there's another David. Where's the other David? I only see one David. Okay, so Michaela wants.
Can I work with Hattie?
Michaela wants Jaden and Sam.
It's Eric.
Eric? Who did you want to
Yes.
work with?
Hattie.
Eric V is gonna work with Patty Martinez. Okay. So we have Kevin, Pranav, Clever, and Thomas as one group. Michaela, Jaden, and Sammy is one group. Yes,
Excuse me?
Eric and Hadi is another group.
Excuse me?
Yes,
Which Jaden? There's two.
Jaden Wright.
Uh-huh.
So you are Jaden G. I'm not gonna butcher that last name either.
Yes.
Any classmates seem familiar to you?
I'll just work with the last bunch.
Eric and Hadi?
No, the other one, Michaela and the other Jaden.
Okay. Is that okay, Michaela? Okay. Luke, do you want to work with Eric and Hadi?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care.
Eric, that's good. That Luke Russo joins you,
That's fine.
okay? Is it okay if Amaya joins you?
I mean, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, so we got 3 groups of 4 so far. Pretty good. So Brian, you want to join with David? Brian Garcia?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Manuel, how about you? Okay with David and Brian?
I am open.
You're okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. So then probably one more for that group. Jonathan, are you here? And yes,
Yes.
would you like to join that group with David, Brian, and Emmanuel?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay. So now we have four groups of 4. So who's left? Terrell,
Yes.
um, how do you pronounce this other name? Homero?
Yeah.
Would you work with Terrell?
Sure.
Okay. Sydney? And Nicholas are the only people left, right?
Yeah, I'm fine working with
Nicholas, you're here?
Yeah.
Would you work with Terrell and Homero?
Yeah, work.
Okay. And then I guess Sydney's not here, so she will be in your group as well. Okay, so here is what I'm going to do to make life easy for everyone. Single. See if I can do this. Do I remember how? Okay, so group one is going to be Kevin, Pranav, Clever,
And me, Thomas.
and Thomas. Okay. So if I did that correctly, you guys should be able to like just message each other through groups on webcams. Okay, so group two is Kayla, both Jadens, and Sammy. Okay. Group three is going to be Vero, Nicholas, Terrell, and Sydney. Okay. Group four is going to be David, Ryan, Manuel, and Jonathan. Okay. And then the last group will be Eric V, Adi, Luke, and Amaya. Okay. So that is all set up. You should be able to like click into there and have like a little group chat set up. If I did this right. Yeah. So you'd click on your group and do the send email or group discussion board to like talk back and forth to each other. I'm sure you guys can all see users on Web Campus. Yes, no, maybe so.
No,
No? Okay, so I'll keep this up for a few minutes so you can look back at the recording and see this list with the emails, or you could always type in their name in the email system. So you could email back and forth, set up probably a group chat or something, or like I showed you, you could use that groups. But like I said, you should be able to click groups here. See your group. Click it. And then communicate, either send email or group discussion board. So you click email. You add all the group members. You can add in a subject. So I'll just do this group, group one. Hello, group one. Just so you're all on an email chain. And like I said, you may want to go ahead and set up a group text or whatever, however you guys communicate these days. So again, like I said, for next week, this Zoom meeting link will be at the top. It'll probably be for 6 to 6:30. Just pop in if you need to, if you have any questions. So if you click 9.3 HTML, it'll have that at the top. And underneath it, I'll have the lecture recording. Go ahead and watch that, look through it. You're always welcome to send me emails throughout the week, set up a Zoom, even if it's outside of class time, other days during the week. For the most part, I'm usually only not available on Fridays. But give me a heads up and we'll decide what meeting. So like I said, since I might have company this weekend due to the Labor Day holiday, the 9.3 recording probably won't be posted until, let's say, 1 or 2 that afternoon. But all of the other ones will definitely be up the Sunday beforehand. So for example, 9.10, probably, let's say, 9.8, it will be posted. And as the semester goes through, I'll probably have more and more of them up earlier and earlier. So for example, 10.11 might be up in 3 weeks, let's say, instead of 10.1. Now keep in mind, 10.15, there's no folder because we have off that day for the fall break. But for the most part, it's every Tuesday going forward. Now, like I said, if you don't have a question that specific evening, you don't necessarily have to pop in the Zoom meeting. You could always send me an email after the fact based on your needs. But then that 12:03, everybody comes on Zoom again, just like tonight. Start at 5:30, go to whenever we finish. So for example, tonight, we're probably going to finish about 7. It could very well be the same case then. And since, like I showed you, the website rough draft proposal is already up in the 10.1 folder with the link to the examples. Now that you know your teams, if you're already in the classroom, you already know these individuals, you might already want to start talking about it. That's entirely up to you. Never going to fault you for early assignment submissions. Now, with that said, for example, you submit the HTML assignment early and there's an error, I might email you and say, go back and correct this. Clever question?
Oh no, sorry, that was by accident.
Okay. All right. So are there any questions with respect to any of this, how this setup is going to be run off?
You have any homework tonight?
I would just try and get in touch with your group members. This
Okay.
way, like I said, you could set up a group chat or whatever it may be. So does anybody need me to mention those groups again? Actually. Might as well just type them in. So Kevin, Manav, Clever, Thomas. Chandler. Terrell, Hamero, or Nicholas, do you know Sydney in zone at all?
No.
It
No.
doesn't look like she came tonight, so. I'm not sure. If she's going to be. Participating in the class, but. Since I have the users open, I'm gonna. Post her email in there. Okay. So that you can get in touch with her. Okay, so like I said, some of this stuff won't start getting posted up onto Web Campus until next week. So like I said, for now, just kind of make sure that you can get in touch with your group members, set up a group chat or whatever you want to set up. Like I said, I know you guys these days tend to use the group chat more often than anything, so. Is there any other questions? Anything that's unclear that I can talk about?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So like, technically, the team assignments, they're like due on the Sunday night. Is that what you said earlier? I'm just trying to clarify so I
No,
don't get lost.
So, like I said, for basically all of these highlighted days, you only need to come on Zoom if you have a question.
Like what days? Like at 6 or 6:30?
Yeah, so all of these days, there'll be a Zoom link that will be set up from 6 PM to 6:30 instead of the 5:30 to 9. And if you have a question, you'll come on during that time.
That's fine, okay?
So I said on 9/3, I probably won't have the lecture recording posted until that day. Whereas the rest of them, it'll definitely be posted by the Sunday before. So the assignments, since we meet on Tuesdays, the assignments will be due the Monday night before. So Monday night at 11:59 PM. So for example, the final draft proposal is assigned on 11/19. So it'll be due 11/25 at 11:59 PM. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So basically you'll have class Tuesday, the assignment due Monday night. This way you have basically almost the full week to do it. And like I
Okay.
said, everything is posted except the 5 team assignments and the team peer assessment. So let's say you're in the classroom already right now with your group members. You're more than welcome to start on the rough draft proposal, talking about it, etc. Like I said, the team assignment HTML probably will be, all of these other assignments will probably be set up sometime by next Tuesday afternoonish. So if you want to work on those assignments early, you know where your teammates are, where you can go find them and meet, that's perfectly fine. Like I said, I won't fault you for submitting anything early. But if there is an issue, I might email the group and say, oh, there's this issue. It's going to cost you a lot of your points. Go back and fix it up and resubmit it. And like I sent an announcement out tonight, as soon as those go up on Tuesday, I'll send you an announcement. Like you said, this one will be probably not posted until day of. The rest of them will, going forward, will always be posted beforehand for everyone to look at. Because this first one will be basic HTML and just information. And that's basically how we'll do CSS and JavaScript as well. And then the second and third week, we'll get more into examples of the code. All right, so if there are no other questions, you're more than welcome to go enjoy the rest of your night before the sun sets. And I'll see anybody who has questions next Tuesday night.
Good day.
Take care, thank you.
See you next week.
Good night.
Enjoy, thank you.
Have a
Have a
good
good
night.
night.
Good night, thank you.
Bye, Professor.